So, my guest today has traveled the world many times with one of the most talented artists of today's and yesterday's generation. This monumental musician has inspired many others around the globe with his musical capacities. That's right, I'm using my English. To hear this artist is to wide your brain wide open while you feel the beat deep in your soul. This guy knows what the pocket is. To watch him play is to understand the joys of what an instrument well played can do to you. This guy displays pure joy, and it's evident he loves what he does. Here with me, the extraordinary, the master, the artistic, massively accomplished, skilled, handsome, someone I can call a friend, Richie Kotzen's bass player, the one and only Dylan Wilson!
Wow. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Wow,
everybody.
that's the best introduction I've ever had.
Ever had.
Amazing.
I try.
You
It's
do
not
well.
hard to do with you
Yeah,
guys in
wow.
this show because
Thank
everybody's so talented.
I'm sure you got
So how are you?
some
Tell me
friends.
everything. Just tell me how fucking
Yeah.
quarantine has treated you.
Quarantine's been interesting. I'm trying to keep my sanity as much as I can,
Yeah.
you know. But I'm doing a lot of the same stuff a lot of musicians are doing, like trying to keep those skills up, trying to keep the tools sharp in the shed.
Right.
As they say, just waiting for the gun to ring off to start the race again.
No.
Let's go. Let's get it on.
You're ready.
Yeah. So, doing some of that, doing some collaborating with some people, done a few online stuff. Actually had a couple Kotzen fans reach out to me. I did
Oh yeah.
a couple songs for some people.
Really?
Yes.
So you're hireable? You play with other people right now?
I am hireable for sure.
Cool.
Yeah, that's a
Listen,
thing.
people.
That's the thing. Even been known to do a few favors here and there for people, but so doing some of that and working on my own record. That's been my passion of late.
And how's this album sounding?
It's really bad. No, it's
It's alright. What kind of music?
I'm hoping it's worthy of that introduction, honestly. But it's a kind of composite of the things that I really dig and influences that I've had. So there's a lot of,
Right.
I mean, if you've seen me play with Richie and stuff, there's a lot of soul, kind of funk influence in my playing. But I definitely have a deep rock background.
I even listen. I even hear some jazz in you.
Yeah. I do my upright bass makes an appearance on the record.
Oh.
Yeah, and it's going really well. It's one of those things. I think a lot of us find that we put our the passion projects on the back burner.
Yeah.
This one of these days I'm gonna do this record of mine.
Yeah, if I could do anything, I would do that.
Right, and then you're just like, yeah, well, right now I gotta learn these songs for this gig, and I gotta prepare for this tour. I gotta, go have drinks or whatever you gotta do. but so we put things off, and man, did this virus just strip away everybody's excuses?
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah.
To extreme levels. So, which is, I guess, the silver lining that it's forcing. And I know a lot of people, such as myself, that are doing their own records, in this time, and trying to make the most of it, trying to make this quarantine actually mean something.
Right.
Because it's so easy to not just to
hang out,
just to stream shows, eat pizza all day,
be a total douche.
Yeah, and and that time's good too. You definitely need some downtime to reflect on life. But so that's what I've been mainly doing, is just trying to get this record, and I think I'm gonna get it done definitely before the end of the year. But I'm hoping before my birthday next month would be amazing. I won't be able to release it by then, but I'm getting close to it being fully composed and recorded.
So you wrote all the songs?
I wrote all the songs, and I've recorded everything as of now, all the instruments.
Oh, wow.
It's just all me as of now. And I'm hoping to get that part done, I should say, before my birthday, and then send it to some friends to kind of, fill in the scaffolding.
Who are you gonna have?
If you will. Oh, well, that's a secret.
No, you gotta tell me.
Yeah, I think there's going to be some, I've got a lot of talented friends, as you may imagine. So there's going to be some appearances by some great musicians.
Is it like songs with lyrics too?
Yes. Yeah.
Are you writing the lyrics?
Yes. Oh yeah. 100%. Cool. Everything. Singing on every track.
Are you gonna sing?
Oh yeah.
Oh
singing
my
on every
God!
track.
I didn't know you were a lead singer.
Yeah, I don't know if I am. I certainly wouldn't call myself that. You know, it's interesting. It comes up a lot, and I've always kind of give that disclaimer, like, oh, I don't really sing, and I don't really, but I have sung quite a lot. Like I've sung backups for even the first tour legit paying tour I ever did was with Safe Ferris when I was 21, and I sang all the backups on that, and it was the same deal. It was like I came in like, well, I'm not really a singer, but somebody's got to do it.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh yeah.
So then there you are, and that I keep finding myself in that situation. But I will say I do really enjoy singing.
Me too.
Yeah, I know you do. I know you don't get enough.
I don't.
Yeah, I find myself maybe shying up sometimes with it, especially singing lead and singing your own music and that kind of thing.
Yeah. But at least when you're singing your own music, you can do whatever you want.
You're right. There's
so
not that.
You can
there's
bend
not
the
that.
rules, you know?
There's not that like American Idol style like judgment.
Yeah, it's like
my God.
Either you do it, this way. You gotta be faithful to the song. People are gonna want to hear that one thing. Like, nah.
Man, I tell you what. One time, we were on tour with Richie and. Oh man, I think we were in London somewhere playing this rather large theater. And Richie was having trouble with his voice, which he has had from time to time.
Right, we all do.
Touring, playing a lot of shows. And he asked me to sing a song just to like help get through the night so I could have a break.
Yeah.
And how nerve-wracking is that? Especially like you're in front of somebody else's, this is Richie's crowd. This is, and I've been with Richie a long time, so I know his fans like me too and all that kind of stuff. It's not like I'm new to the group, but still, and Richie has such a unique voice. You know, he has such a strong, upper register rock voice that is not easy to emulate, and and I don't come close.
I'm a girl and I can't.
Yeah, so man, and actually, quite a few people were really nice after that. And,
do you remember what song it was?
It was High. I sang High, and
you was high. No.
And I wasn't maybe afterward, but at them I was high on the feeling of being on stage. Let's say that.
It was good.
It actually came off pretty well, and I got a lot of help from the audience. The audience sang back,
cool.
And that's always a great feeling when everybody's singing the lyrics back to you.
Yeah.
And everybody was really nice afterward. Told me I did a good job, but
oh my God,
that is a nerve-wracking situation to be thrown into.
Awesome.
Like, hey, guess what? You're singing lead on one of my ballads tonight.
And you're like, okay. And he's right there on stage with you.
Yeah, and you know that everybody's in the audience is going, it's pretty good, but I'd rather hear Richie. I'd rather hear Richie sing it proper.
Well, that's okay.
But
so I didn't know that part of you.
Yeah, so I do some singing, and I'm fairly passionate about it. I really like doing it.
Do you like karaoke?
I don't like karaoke. I'm not a fan of that too much. I don't know. It's
karaoke is good practice. It's a good way to practice. Oh yeah.
You know what I do? I used to when we used to like go play music live. I used to back in the old days. Back in the old days, I used to book my own shows at various bars and restaurants and go. I think you may have. I don't know if you've ever come to one.
I haven't come, but we spoke about it.
Yeah, and I would play. Usually it'd be like upright bass, and I have an acoustic guitar player, and I just sing a bunch of cover tunes.
Was it like a trio, right? No.
There was a trio version of that, where that was more loud, like bass drums, guitar, electric bass kind of thing. But the bulk of that was with the acoustic duo thing. And in either case, it always just ends up with me singing a couple verses and then going, all right, bass solo.
Lots of bass solo.
Lots of bass solo. On that group, I prefer like a guitar player who's like, doesn't mind me just like taking over all that space. Yeah. Someone who's not like, I need to be the lead guy.
I know.
In fact, I really enjoy playing with the keyboard player in that setting because of that gives me some room to turn on some pedals and get in that lead guitar player realm. Soak up all the spotlight, if you will.
So how many tracks do you have for the album?
I've settled on 8 songs for the record.
That's good.
Yeah, and they're pretty epic tunes. Like I don't think any of them are shorter than 4 minutes. Well, there's definitely a lot of rock and funk stuff in there. There's a little bit of reggae vibe and tune.
Oh yeah, wow. Very
not
classic.
Like full out. Yeah, there's a lot of. I don't know. I kind of always thought like that kind of thing's for somebody else to decide. You know.
I know.
Like
description is an art killer.
My only goal is for it to be something that I like.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's very much for me. I always said I was going to do my own record before I turned 30, and it looks like I'm going to make it before 40. So,
hey, I'd rather do it late than never.
About a decade behind schedule. But yeah, better late than never, and it's definitely just a passion project for me. Like I really don't care if anybody listens to it or likes it, even though I'm going to make it available for everybody, and I hope people like it. But it's really about me completing that artistic goal of mine, and putting these ideas down and going for it. You know.
I think the best music, not just personally, because I like a song mostly when I wrote it without expectations of pleasing anybody for any reason. But a lot of artists these days now are just being super truthful to their art. I spoke to some artists here in the podcast, and that's exactly what they had in mind. Like, finally, fuck it. I'm just going to make an album with the songs I want to hear. Songs I would like to hear,
Yeah.
And just, I don't have an agenda. I don't have shows, so, this is the time. And me and Julia been doing that too. We actually have a new song coming out. And I've been writing tons of songs. She's doing it too. She just released one on her own.
I've seen some of that. Yeah.
Badass.
Yeah, for sure.
And I'm gonna release 3 on my own. But it's the time. It's the time to just.
It's the time to do that thing.
Yeah. Just let yourself.
That's kind of I feel like that is a good general guideline in creating anything. Really, is if your goal is to please somebody else, like I think it's harder to hit that than if you make something that you yourself like, then you're guaranteed other people are going to like it, because people people share a lot of the same, not everybody's going to like it, but if I like it, I know there's people like me that'll like it as well.
Yeah. People can feel it too when it's bullshit and when it's real,
when it's genuine and that kind of thing.
Yeah,
exactly. So it's going to be no bullshit.
I love it. Can't wait. Do you have a name for the album?
No, I don't. It's probably just gonna be self-titled. I don't know. I've never put out a record,
good.
But so
Dylan Wilson, love songs.
There you go. That's right. The Quiet Storm with Dylan Wilson. It's all love ballads. How'd you know that? It's all of the whole thing. It's a bedroom set, really.
I can't wait.
I just want to get people laid. That's my goal.
Bedroom set.
Bedroom. You know what? That's not a bad idea. Maybe
that is not.
I might have to put this album on the back burner and do bedroom sets, because that sounds, especially during the quarantine. I don't know. It sounds pretty good.
There's a lot of that going on. New playlists and everything.
Yeah.
When it comes to songwriting, how do you work the best? What's better for you? What comes first, or?
Typically, and I wouldn't say it's 100% always the same, but I would say the most typical way would be that I kind of find I'll be messing around on either the bass or piano or guitar, and I'll find some sort of groove, some sort of line that feels good, and usually sometimes it's like a set of chord changes, and I find that little pocket with the changes that sounds interesting to me, but also doesn't sound generic. Sounds like, okay, this sounds like it has some sort of identity of its own.
Yeah.
And then I'll try to mine that, and if I kind of quickly come up with a melodic line and this, like, even just a little phrase, it doesn't have to be wordy, but a little phrase and a melody, if I have that much, then I know there's something there, you know.
Yeah.
And then
Oh, yeah.
then I'll is like trying to chip away at the marble and figure out,
Yeah.
you know, what this wants to turn into, and you know, trying to use just instinct as far as, okay, that feels good, let me go down that route, or like, or also just being able to realize, you know what, that idea was bad. Let me let me just let me not
that
worry.
happens to me a
Yeah,
lot.
let me not worry about that and get in my own head about how much I suck, and just, you know,
You got
forge
rid of
ahead.
that one. That's how I look at it. And
Yeah,
I write
I
something
got that
bad
out
and
of
I
it.
go, well, at least it's out of my system.
Right.
I don't have to repeat the same mistakes.
Yeah, but I do find it. You know, I think it does exist that people, you know, write like they're going to do a job, like they could sit down and they just write, and that's probably the smarter way to go about it, as far as, you know, churning out material and finding a lot of good songs. But I've always find it comes in like moments of inspiration where I'm, you know, something will hit me and I'll work really hard on it for a few days and I'll be like, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And then I'll expect that next thing to happen right away, and it doesn't.
No.
I'm like, all right, next one, go brain, do it.
I know. Some people
And I'm
can,
like,
and I think
I don't
it's
know.
super cool.
I think that's cool too. Yeah.
I wish, but the best songs, again, they only come when there's something personal going on in my life.
True. Yeah.
I write from personal experiences, for example.
Yeah.
My lyrics are, if you know my lyrics, you know what's going on in my life. You know, they're always describing something that happened.
Oh yeah.
Happening.
Yeah. Well, this record is definitely that. It's definitely all. I mean, it's a breakup record. It definitely is. Yeah. It has to do with a breakup that I went through. I know you know about it. I don't want to talk about it on your podcast, but
it's okay.
Because suddenly it turns into Oprah. But that is.
We like Oprah.
But
That's
I think your dog is dying over there.
It's fine.
That's okay.
He misses you.
But I think you're right about that. I think writing about it, again, it comes back to what we were saying about not trying to please somebody else. You know, it's kind of along the same lines of writing something personal versus trying to come up with some sort of, you know, fictional thing. And again, like, it's not a rule. Like, people do that and can do that. But for me, it doesn't always speak the best, I think, to me, and in terms of my stronger suits, I definitely feel more comfortable just being honest and talking about my own life and my own feelings about things and writing about that.
Yeah, me too. And some people go like, well, but you know, write a song about this thing. Are you always gonna remember about this thing when you play that song? No, definitely not. That message at the time helped me to get through something.
It's very therapeutic.
It is. For us, it definitely, music cures everything for us. You know, you can be angry, you can be happy, and you play music, and it massages everything, it makes it all right. Yeah. So, that message, that song, doesn't necessarily repeat itself every time I sing it. It doesn't hurt every time I sing it, but it's a moment in time. It's a picture of a feeling, and now it's just it becomes work too. And it's like if I'm gonna have to wear my heart in a sleeve, then and that's my job, then be it. I love it.
Yeah, well, I think that's what we're kind of called to do in some certain way. It's like art is supposed to imitate life, and I mean those are the things talk about music being meaning stuff to people and getting through things with people, and it's because we all go through the same sort of stuff. So if it's like a heartbreak song, it's like maybe when you wrote it was therapeutic for you and it was specific and it really meant something, and when you're performing it 2 years later, you're not in that headspace, but somebody else might be. There's so many great getting to tour with somebody like Richie is given me so many cool opportunities to talk to fans of his music all around the world and see that in such a potent form, where people are like in tears and in shaking just even meeting the bass player, because Richie's music meant means so much to them.
Yeah.
And help them get through something, and just by association.
Yeah, it's so important
it's like,
to them. That music
wow,
is so important.
wow, what a cool thing.
I know. And you got a good group of guys there next to you.
It's a good band. Yeah.
And you guys been everywhere.
We've been. I would like to say everywhere, but there are some places that I still need to check off. But we've done extensive touring.
I know, and you guys been to Brazil many times.
Many times.
How's that?
I love Brazil. Brazil is
better.
probably.
You better lie right now.
Is there a lot of Brazilians listening to this? You think?
Probably.
You better lie right now. No, I do love Brazil. I think Brazil is some of the best audiences around the world. Just really a lot of energy.
They really like music down there.
Love music. Appreciate rock and
definitely
appreciate musicianship as well. It's a beautiful culture down there. Beautiful people. The whole thing.
You like Brazilian music?
Yeah, I definitely do.
Can you name one that you like?
Can I name one?
I have a gun to his head.
Yeah. Well, I will say I probably don't go super deep, and you're gonna be like, you're just gonna name all the obvious stuff. But I'll try to go back. One of my favorite records I still listen to is this Os Afro Sambas by, is it Baden Powell or Baden Powell? I'm not sure how you pronounce his name. He's
Is it a new thing?
Older. No.
No. Okay.
A kind of samba, old school guitar
like
player.
Bossa Nova?
Yeah. I'll have to. You're obviously, I don't know who you're talking about. You're like, you made this shit up. No, let me show you. It's a real person.
Yeah, look.
Somebody is listening to this going, Dylan knows he was talking about Tati. You're making this look silly.
Look, because I'm going to look at something really cool.
But I do, obviously Joe Beam, all the Joe Beam stuff.
Oh, yeah?
And...
But you probably heard of
Is it Sao George?
Seu Jorge.
Yes.
Yeah.
I can never pronounce his name.
He's a badass.
He's amazing.
He is. His voice is like...
Yeah.
It hits hard and somewhere really deep in there.
There's a lot of stuff, too, I'm sure, that I just...
Milton Nascimento.
I just don't know the name of. I can't recall, but I do love...
How about Milton Nascimento. I'm
that
trying to have American
doesn't
accent.
sound familiar to me. This cat right here.
Baden Powell? Never heard of this guy.
Oh, you need to look this up. Come on.
Oh my God, I do.
This is Brazilian music right here.
The most Americanized Brazilian music ever got to me was when Wayne Shorter and Milton Nascimento and we were just talking about him. They put this jazz Brazilian album out. Oh my God!
And that's the most Americanized?
So from Brazil to America, yeah.
I think, I don't know, I think you'd have to say the album that Sinatra did with Joe Beam has got to be.
It could be.
That's got to be the biggest crossover.
They're right there, though.
That's got to be where,
Herbie Hancock is in the album with him, too.
Okay.
It's pretty badass. I can't think of I think it's called...
I will say my first trip to Brazil, which was pre-Richie, I was on tour there with a guy named Christopher Uckerman. I think he was a part of some pop group called RBD, I want to say. Wasn't familiar with it. Some sort of pop thing was big in South America. And
but was he Brazilian?
I don't know if he might have been like Argentinian. Okay. I'm not sure. The group was made up of like several young people.
Okay.
And I don't know if they were all from Brazil or what. I mean, very little information. You gotta understand, my life is like...
Were you awake?
hey, Dylan, can you be at this airport at this time?
That's it.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, here's the tunes you gotta learn. Cool. Like,
small information.
in terms of who I'm playing for, or the context.
But you probably had many shows with them, or not that many?
We did a couple shows with him in Brazil, and then we went to Argentina, and then also like Mexico City. But that first trip to Brazil was really really cool and impactful. Oh my gosh, I'm trying to remember there was a point I was getting toward.
Talk about
Going to Brazil the first time. Oh, we were talking about music, Joe Beam and Sinatra and stuff. And so the drummer was from Rio that was on that gig, and one of the stops was in Rio, and he took us to this spot where he was saying this is the spot where like Sinatra called Joe Beam, and they went and they flew him over to do that record. And then that night he took us to some sort of club, and it was like it was crazy late. We had played a show. We had to get up to the airport in the morning, and it was I suppose bossa
Nova?
It was probably bossa nova. It was like it was very traditional, no bass player where the drum is doing the bass. Boom,
Oh, okay.
boom,
Then it's
boom,
samba.
boom. Okay, samba.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. And it's just like a couple guitar players and then all percussion.
Right.
And just everybody dancing. And my white boy ass just in there dancing with everybody, but I'm sure looking a fool. And really not knowing how to dance appropriately.
I'm Brazilian.
I don't dance very well at all. But for me, it was almost like a religious experience. The music was so beautiful.
Nice.
And the evening of dancing with everybody there, all the local folks and stuff. And it made an impression on me that still hasn't left in terms of your country, Brazil.
Seems
just
like it, yeah.
just instantly like, oh, I love this place. This is awesome.
I miss Brazil, man. I haven't been there in many years, and I've only been there once since I moved here.
Really? I've been back more than you.
You have. You know better than I do Brazil these days. And my band always makes fun of me. They're like, Tatiana don't know anything anymore. She's American. I don't keep up with it.
Well, there's it seems to me that there's quite a lot of Brazilians in Los Angeles.
Oh, yeah.
It seems to be quite the syndicate.
Yeah. Especially for surfers. Brazilians love surfing. Here in Hermosa Beach, there's a lot of them. There's a building that is called Brasilândia, Brazil Land, because there's all Brazilians in there. It's hilarious. Everybody's Brazilian in there, which is cute. And there's a lot of musicians too here.
Right.
And they're wonderful, wonderful.
There's always like at least 5 Brazilians over at Richie's house. If you go back.
Yeah, there is. My whole band is Brazilian. Right. We don't have a drummer right now, but when we did, he was Brazilian. It's always Brazilian. But we don't mean to be just Brazilians. It just happens.
It sounds like you guys are a little bit racist. No, I'm just...
Why don't you want to hire the American?
Is that nationalist? I don't know. Nationalistic? I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway.
What about the food there?
The food is great. The food's great. I'm definitely a fan of the food.
You should go to Brazil just for fun, too, at some point.
I would like to do that. And, that's something that I have very rarely done in my life. For all the traveling I've done, it's always been with the bass on my shoulder, But
Which is great, too.
Which is great, yeah. The bass has brought me a lot of places. But in terms of travel, and I think that's kind of... it's like people who do our job, I guess we live to work rather than work to live. A lot of people, they work their job 9 to 5 and they working toward the weekend, toward they're going to go golfing, they're going to do that trip with the missus, or they're going to have a barbecue, or they're going to, hey, we got a big vacation. We're going to go to Brazil this year. Yeah. And for me, it's always just like, hey, I got a tour booked. I'm going to go to Brazil this year.
Or totally.
The downtime. Obviously, this is all pre-coronavirus era. Right. But the downtime, it's always like, oh, I don't have to work. I'm just going to hang at the house.
I'm going to be lazy.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not going to play.
I'm actually going to...
But you do play.
No, you do, yeah. But it'll be something fun that I wouldn't get to. It'll be like, oh, I'm going to actually learn this Jaco Pastorius song that I always wanted to learn, or something. I'm going to I'll hear something and be like, oh, you know what? Let me figure out how to play the guitar part to the Gap bands early in the morning. Just randomly.
Why, right? Because I can, because I have the time.
Right.
And no, touring should be amazing. It is amazing.
It is, yeah.
The more you do it, the better it gets.
Touring?
Yeah. At least you get better at it.
Yeah, well, touring, I would say it changes as I've gotten older. So different things have gotten more difficult. Sleeping is harder than it used to be. I used to be able to sleep like anywhere. You know?
I can't sleep anywhere.
I just get on the bus, pass out, super easy, and wake up feeling like $1 million. You know,
and play a show, it's fine.
Yeah, totally.
Recovery time was shorter.
Right. Drink a 6-pack from Jack Daniels, you're good the next day. But all those things the traveling on the body, touring it's difficult to stay healthy. It's a difficult environment to always eat well.
Yeah.
Just watch what you put in your body and also get exercise. Not to say you can't do that, but you have to proactively do things to make that happen. Otherwise, you come back, you're like, oh my gosh, I gained 15 pounds on this tour. I'm all bloated. My liver's shot.
I can't talk. I have no voice.
Exactly. And those things, it happens really easy. So those aspects of the tour get more difficult as you're just dealing with the growing old thing. And you're like, okay, like how do I navigate this? How do I make sure I need to get good sleep or I'm going to be worthless? And I need to watch what I'm eating and drinking so that my energy levels and also my just cognitively where you're at. Because it can be challenging when you're like in a little bus, with 10 people or whatever, and you're sharing all this little space. And you might really love everybody, but everybody's little idiosyncrasies, start to like, just little things. It's like, I don't even like the way you eat your eggs in the morning. It's like for no reason. For no reason.
It started getting short with people.
You start getting short with people. So, I think earlier on, it's easier. All those things were easier when I was younger. You're just excited to be out and those kind of things.
Yeah. It's also because it was newer to you.
Yeah.
And I was just like.
But then with age comes a certain amount of just swagger of like, I've been here and I've done this, and a confidence and actually all learning, just how to execute, and step on stage and do. Be consistent, execute at a high level every time. In the midst of all that stuff of like I'm jet lagged and this happened.
How do you do it? How do you play a show when you're like super tired?
Oh my gosh, coffee. Drink a lot of coffee, water, and I usually once you get on the stage. There's a little energy that kicks in, and gets you through. But sometimes there was one time in Japan I remember being out there that I've never felt more jet lagged for whatever reason. This one show, I want to say it was like Nagoya or something like that, and I thought I was gonna pass out. Like I think it was maybe Richie's birthday that year, and I remember feeling okay backstage. We had some cake and stuff for his birthday, and then I remember getting on stage and thinking, this is not good. Like I'm on the stage now and I feel like going to bed. I feel like I'm going to go behind the drum set and I'm just going to take a nap.
Easily.
No. I mean, that's a real challenge. I don't know if I have a lot of people.
Maybe it was the cake.
Yeah. A lot of people say they have like ways to get around that, but I don't think there's a real way. Other than time, if you're a big enough act that you could get out to where you got to be early enough to like have a few days to acclimate.
Right.
But I mean, who gets to do that? We're all like trying to go from show to show and make this thing happen. It's not like a.
Plus, the more time you have in between shows, the longer the tour is gonna be. The more expensive it's gonna be to be out. So
exactly. Well, that's the problem.
You want to hit hard, but when you're there, almost passing out because you're so tired. But how was the show though? Fine.
That show I think it was fine. Yeah. People seem to like it.
Probably good. I don't know.
I can't remember. I don't know. After a while, the shows that stick out are just those like ones that were either extraordinarily good or extraordinarily bad. Or like something happened. And sometimes I think the difference between that is extremely minute and often imperceptible to the people that are watching. So many times I've come off stage and been like, man, that was no good, and people be like, oh, it was amazing, that was my favorite one I've seen of you. It's so subjective. It's like in your own headspace of like, yeah, I'm killing it, And it could be something as simple as like where I'm standing on stage, the bass sounds perfect, right?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, it's so fat right here.
Yeah.
But who knows what it sounds like, 20 feet out
know,
there.
you
It might,
never know.
some of the guy in the audience might be like, this is horrible. Turn
Where's
that
the
bass
bass?
down or turn it up. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, where is it on?
Yeah.
They like telling us girls, is your instrument even on?
We're telling us
you.
girls, what?
Like,
That-
yeah, it's on, and I'm gonna break it on your head if you talk to me
Oh, okay.
anymore. Yeah, they pretend that they make us feel small. They try to make us feel small because we're women and we're on stage and we're playing. And they're like, are you really playing that, or you're just pretending? Like,
well, I'm sure they're trying to hit on you. But people are
That's
always...
a terrible way of hitting on.
Yeah. People are always trying to have some sort of... It's interesting. It's interesting, like, music is so accessible to... Even though it's a very difficult thing to actually do as a full-time living. There's very few of us who manage to work that out in some fashion, right?
Yeah.
But it's so accessible to everybody that everybody seems to have an opinion and think that they have some sort of authority in it or and it's just so easy. People just habitually overstep those lines of like it almost starts to feel like a lot of people don't seem to give it a kind of credibility as a real job, unfortunately.
The respect
exactly. Like I wouldn't come up to you at your job and I don't even know what
totally.
I don't know what like a sales exec even does, but
I don't
you know
either.
what I mean? But part
Not
of
as fun.
part of that is probably that same thing where they don't actually realize what goes into being a musician full time and the little nuances and stuff, and people are excited about music, so they want to like connect with you and they'll come up and they'll start talking about their kid who they bought a bass for and their band got a manager
and that's
and
cool.
like whatever, like
just,
that's fine, yeah.
And people, they don't realize that you go to school and you learn something, like again how to be an accountant, and then they don't understand that we've been working on this music thing since we were kids.
Right.
Before we started actually studying music, we were already studying. I'm quoting right now.
True.
Music, I've been working on this since I can't remember.
Yeah, the kind of the amount of time that any musician who's gotten as far as you and I have gotten and not given up on it has put in an incredible amount of hours studying and practicing and researching and spending money on gear.
Oh my God,
just so many hours that it's I certainly haven't done a study, but I would imagine that it's got to be probably dwarfs the amount of hours in a lot of people put into whatever they do for a living. Like I don't know, being a CEO, like how long does it take to get there, and how much time do you spend studying and working on that after hours? Because as a musician, it doesn't end. Like it doesn't stop. There's no point where you reach. You're never good enough.
Never.
There's always something more to learn. There's always somebody out there working harder. There's always
someone better.
There's always there's no part where you're done. You don't really turn it off in your mind either. It's not like you go do it from 8 to 5 and then you put that down and you enjoy your evening and you watch The Sopranos or whatever. It's like, every moment I'm constantly feeling like anytime I'm doing something that's not related to music, I feel like I'm wasting time. I feel guilty about it. Like every time I'm like streaming a show and I'm like, oh, all right, I got to shut this off and like practice something or work on something.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It's and it has to be like that, I think, to stay competitive, because it's something that a lot of people want to do. A lot of people want to do this.
Yeah.
But there really isn't that much work, relative to how many people dream of being a musician,
And then when you're not learning the bass or learning the guitar or learning something, you're booking shows too. So you're on your phone trying to deal with this stuff. You're building a website for yourself and for your band. You're fucking creating a logo so you can have merchandise.
Right.
So, and you go into the studio spending all this money. Recently, I just started learning Pro Tools, and Even the bass, I was telling Julia, I'm never gonna show you that recording, but
I gotta hear
it's
that.
me on the bass, and I'm just like making demos here. I'm like, fuck it. It got to a point where I just have to do it on my own. Who's
Right.
gonna do for me? All of this stuff. So we're wearing many hats.
Yeah.
And we don't get paid for all of them.
Yeah, you don't. Yeah. What's the joke about something? There's something line there. People always say like, they pay me to set up my gear or whatever.
Oh yeah, they pay me to set it up, break it down. The rest is free.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It almost feels like that because you would expect to pay as much for like to have somebody move your furniture or something like that, and let alone set it up, perform it, and tear it back down and take it back to where they got it.
It would be so nice.
But there's you have to wear a lot of hats. You have to be everything. You have to know how to record, be able to produce your own stuff. You gotta be your own booking agent. You gotta be your own manager. You definitely have to. There's a lot more than just working on music and being great artist, being good at what you do. Like it's a whole other thing in terms of taking that skill that you've built up and applying it in a way that gets you to that goal of this is what I do. I play music for a living. And as a result, it turns into, and I think more so than a lot of other things you would do for a living, turns into your identity. I think so many people just that is such a part of them that right now people are having a tough time. A lot of my friends have a tough time because it's, including myself, just you identify yourself with what you do so much. Yeah. That in a time like this, when you're not able to do that, it's definitely a jarring thing.
I haven't worked this hard as I'm working right now since this quarantine. I'm working so much more.
What?
I am.
Are you?
Not outside of the house,
Uh-huh.
but like I said, I'm recording and I'm learning new stuff. I'm learning new instruments. I got all this like editing stuff to make like really cool shit, like
okay.
for like flyers. Another thing, you have to make flyers. So how do you come up with these cool flyers, man?
Right.
I don't know. I sit there, put something stupid on the TV, and I just like press all the buttons and see what they do.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, you're working harder than ever. You're like you're putting in the work.
Video coming in, and these lives, are weird. The live Facebook lives, but make a little money.
You've done a bunch of those. I witnessed a couple. I chimed in.
You did.
I chimed in to check it out.
Sometimes they're good, sometimes they're shit. Sometimes you don't want to play, but then you don't need to because you're playing in your living room.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that's an interesting. I haven't done. Well, I guess I did one kind of with an artist last week, but I haven't done anything like you've been doing. You're pretty steady with those.
Yeah.
It's an interesting concept. It's almost like it's almost like going down to Venice Beach and seeing somebody play the guitar, and it's essentially the same thing. You're like, here's my tip jar, here's donations.
Yeah.
I'm gonna play some music for you, and which is, there's nothing wrong with that.
I'm fortunate enough that I actually have some people that send me a few bucks, so it's not always too bad. And I use the space and the time to just play my songs.
Right. Well, it's great practice as it is, and
see what works.
I think it's a smart thing to do for sure. Yeah.
Gear.
Gear.
Tell me about your gear. What are you using these days?
So gear. Like in terms of basses, like electric basses, I own a few 70s Fender basses, and those are kind of my favorite ones to play. I have a couple of 70s P basses, a 74, which is like a Mocha one that was used in the Live in Tokyo DVD we did, like I want to say maybe it was 2015 we did that. And then I have another one that's an Antigua finish. It's a 78, which they only use in 78, 79. The Antigua is a beautiful finish. I think you've probably seen that. It's kind of like these, I think they've called it a moonburst or something. I saw it somewhere. So it's kind of like a white burst, but it yellowed over the years, Okay. So it kind of has this yellowish tint to it. very gorgeous. And that's probably my favorite bass. That one is special to me.
Why? Because it sounds like heaven. What makes it sound so good to you?
Well, I think that the P bass in itself is just such a classic, amazing tone, and widely used on so many recordings that it's hard to go wrong. And that was the first P bass I bought. Prior to that, I was playing a lot of Music Man, and
is the Music Man all of them 5 strings, or am I wrong?
No, just all the Julias.
Just Julius, okay. I don't know.
That's awesome.
Cool, so yours 4 string, cool.
Yeah, well, I do play a 5 string a lot. I have another Fender. At some point, what happened was I bought this P bass, this one I'm talking about, and it just blew my mind. It was just like this. I love this. The voice of this.
Right.
Works with me. It speaks to me more so than a Music Man, and a lot of people have, play amazing stuff in Music Man, and that's their thing or whatever. But for me, it just kind of was like an epiphany. I was like, I thought this is it. Excuse me. Oh, you said I could cuss, right? So at that point, I decided, you know what, I'm just gonna sell the gear I have and turn that into more Fender basses, because I was just super into it. So I had an Alembic 5-string, gorgeous bass. I sold that and I got a 5-string Fender. I did that specifically for this tour with Alex Band of the Calling, because that music was made in like the early 2000s, where you have a lot of 5-string being played on those records. And part of that too is like, and now that's a jazz bass. So jazz bass, P bass has this, like, you can't really go wrong. You need that in your tool belt as a bass player for hire. There's a few sounds that you definitely need. Like as a guitar player, you'd want to have a Telecaster, and you'd also want to have a Strat, maybe a Les Paul or whatever.
And the Hummingbird.
Yeah, and obviously you can keep going. It's like, get a Hofner bass as well, and a Rickenbacker, and then get this, and then, it's like you keep going. But if you're gonna have two, and this is my opinion, is you need to have a jazz bass and a P bass. Okay. So basically what I did was, like, I just got super into the Fender stuff, and I started picking up a few pieces. I got a 73 jazz bass, but then at some point, what was it, a couple years ago, G&L reached out to me before Kotzen tour and approached me about playing one of their basses. And the thing about G&L is G&L stands for George Fullerton and Leo Fender. Mm-hmm. And so it's like Leo Fender he sold it to CBS, I think. He sold Fender to CBS, and then I'm sure people listening to this know more than me. You could just Wikipedia it, but
we want to know.
So
we don't know this stuff.
So he sold off Fender, and then he started creating the Music Man stuff, and then sold that off to Ernie Ball, and then started G&L. And he was working there when he passed away. They still have his office exactly how it was when he died, which was so cool. The owner, some brothers own it, and one of the guys like took me back in there, and like I was sitting in this chair that he told me that Leo had designed.
Wow.
All of his stuff, with the exception of the first Telecaster, he said was designed in that chair. It was a chair he brought from Fender and stuff, which was just so cool. And there was this workbench of all these pickups and all this stuff. And he was a real innovator, always pushing the envelope, and so much of the sounds that we appreciate, came from this guy's mind. So, such a cool place to be. They have like belt sanders and all this stuff that he designed.
Cool. So you got to go in there.
Yeah, and it's a very small operation, compared to some other, like how Fender is now and stuff. Anyway, so it was a really cool experience. And we went into their showroom, and I started playing basses. They were pulling down things that were like, check this one out, like this is our new thing, or like this is what we're known for, like I think it's like the L2000 or something is like kind of their flagship bass. But it wasn't until they pulled down what is essentially just a jazz bass. Right. And it's exactly like a classic Fender jazz bass. except for it says G&L on the headstock.
Okay.
And I was like, that's what I want. I love the vintage. I love passive instruments and like just kind of vintage approach to things rather than, there's a lot of basses that you could buy that have, 1 or 2 9-volts in them, and you got the preamp and stuff, and you have this huge frequency range, which I guess gives you a big palette, and you could, with all these knobs, some of them have so many knobs and switches on it, it's
You're
like
what am I writing with
Long
this
Beach
thing?
lowrider or something, hit the switches. But to me, that's just too much, I'd rather, I don't really want a Swiss Army knife. I just want when I want a Phillips, I want a Phillips.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't want the multi-tool.
Yeah.
And I also just, I think that there's something about like the jazz bass or the P bass where it has a specific frequency range, and it fits where it's supposed to fit.
Mm-hmm.
And some of these other instruments that have such high-tech electronics is taking up so much frequency range that it kind of gets lost in a way, or it steps on other people's toes. It doesn't need to feel and sound that big.
Yeah.
It really doesn't. There's there's something to like, it's almost like there's something to imperfection, I like to hear a little bit of fret noise. I like to hear some fingers, but so anyway, so that's what I did. I they pulled out this bass and I was like, that's it, that's the one. And I've been playing Gino on the tours with Richie for the last couple of years, and they've been supportive, like throwing up some, reposting some things and stuff like that.
There's some videos of you playing that on YouTube.
I'm sure there's plenty. There's a lot of videos.
But of one of you actually talking about the bass.
Oh yeah, I did do a couple videos for them specifically at their showroom.
And then you changed the pickups, I think, and you get different sounds. Like, hey, I like this a little bit more. You just get deeper, you get a little la la la, and I'm listening to it. I'm going, whoa. I don't know, but that sounds cool. I learned a thing or two.
You gotta help them sell the stuff, I guess, a little bit. I'm not being disingenuous at all. I do like their instruments, and I do tour with that specific bass a lot.
You do.
But I don't know. We'll see what happens going forward. I guess in the end, I'm still. It's like, even though I've been playing that and endorsing them, I'm really still endorsing what I had that epiphany about, which is I like that vintage Fender tone. I like the P bass tone. I like the J bass tone. In this case, it's more of a J bass thing. So I've been playing Aguilar amplification for many years, and they've blown up a lot. When I first started playing with them, they were a pretty small company out of Brooklyn, and I was on tour with, I'm trying to think of who I was on. I was a U.S. tour, and we were the opening act. It was this guy. The artist I was with, you know what? I won't even mention his name. It wasn't very good.
Oh no!
But
everybody's on Google right now.
Yeah, so this is how it is. You're not gonna like everything you do. Sometimes you're painting fences and not the Mona Lisa, right?
That's how I met Judith. We were playing off of them.
So anyway, but we were on the road. We were opening up for a bigger group, and they had a trailer fire, like electrical fire in their trailer, and something happened to part of their bass rig. So I ended up sharing part of my bass rig. We just used the same bass rig for like the second half of that run. Bass player was a really nice guy from New York. He was playing Aguilar, and after some chatting, he was like, you should email these guys. Hit them up, and they were super cool. And this is before I was like, I was working and I'd done some tours and stuff, but I wasn't doing anything like as international as like Richie or something, playing it in front of that many people, around the globe. And they were super cool. They gave me an artist deal and stuff, and I've been with them since, and I really like their approach. I think their approach is similar to kind of what I was trying to convey in terms of my approach to basses. Mm-hmm. I like, the simplicity of like, there's not a graphic EQ, you have bass, treble, mid, limit the options. You know, it's like going into a restaurant and it just has like the three, you know, like you keep like there's so many things to choose.
None of them are really good.
What is the thing that you do that you do really well?
Exactly.
I just want that.
Yeah.
Anyway, I like their gear. They have really good equipment, and I've been using their stuff for a long time. Beyond that, we did one tour where I played an electric upright on stage, and I got one from Ned Steinberg. No. My gosh, NS. Yeah. That's right. Ned Steinberg is his company. NS Designs, and they were really cool about that. Actually, the bass player from Extreme hooked me up with those guys. Cool. I was talking to him about what we were about to do. I think we might have been on the Monsters Rock cruise together or something. And he hit me to that guy's name's Pat Badger, by the way. And he hit me to NS, and they were super cool on the phone, and got this great electric upright that I took all over the world with Richie, and it was really fun to play. Such a different experience from playing a real upright, because I hadn't to that point played it the EUB, the electric upright, before. But I have played upright bass since I was, I don't know, 15 or something.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I have a gorgeous old upright that was made in the 1890s. It's beautiful old bass.
Yeah, those things are like furniture. They're so beautiful. You can just leave them like anywhere in the house, and they're amazing looking. I mean, they're an instrument.
Right. Don't you come to my house and call my bass furniture. Let me tell you that right now.
Don't you dare.
First off,
but Richie
stop you right there.
Richie has a big one like those right in front of his house, right in front of the door.
He does. Yeah,
it's
he does.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Julia was playing that the other day.
They're
like, wow.
beautiful instruments. The tone is just so lovely, and there's something about, especially when you play arco, when you use the bow.
Yeah.
There's something about the tone of a bow on strings, whether it's a cello or a bass or a violin, that really, it really speaks to people's ear. You could see, like, when I'm playing upright, if I'm doing, I don't know, for instance, like I was talking about earlier, doing those gigs, I play at a restaurant or something, sing some tunes, and I like pull out the bow, and as soon as I would like start doing a solo with the bow or something, you could just see everybody's head like just turn, like, oh, what is that sound? Right, I love that.
I like
there's a timbre in it, you know. Yeah. Anyway, so so we did that tour. I got one of those. So play the NS guy, although I haven't, I play the real upright most of the time. But
any pedals?
Yeah, I've been, I never used to. Prior to the Kotzen gig, which is, oh my gosh, it's like almost 10 years now. I think it's been like 9 years or something, a long time.
Since you guys been playing?
Since I've been playing with him, yeah.
Oh shit, that's cool.
And prior to that, I never really used pedals. I was always just, again, with that old school, I'm just going to plug in and play. This is an old school approach. Yeah. Here's the sound of a P bass raw. Take it.
Like it or not, I don't care.
Which is usually just a winning formula in general. But, with the Kotzen gig, you have this kind of power trio thing where there's a lot of responsibility on that gig. I'm not just playing the parts on the record every night, right?
Yeah.
And this song, there's a certain amount of improvisation going on.
Yeah.
There's also no extra tracks. There's no extra musicians, Yeah. The recordings will have maybe there's some percussion here, there's some keys here, there's a couple guitar tracks. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then here we are stripped down with just drums, bass, guitar, and vocal. And you're doing solos, you're doing the stuff 90 minutes a night. You certainly don't need effects to do anything, but it's nice. I found it to be a nice thing to have some different textures to grab a hold of. Yeah. Here for and Help Me is a great example. His song Help Me, we did this huge jam in the middle, and that was one of the first spots where I really started to take advantage of some of the sounds I can bring to the stage, and I started using an envelope filter in the breakdown section, and it turned into this big funk jam that seemingly people like because we keep doing it.
Yeah.
We keep doing it. It's like a signature thing of ours. People, again, it's like that tone thing, like when the bow comes out or something, you know, you have that auditory change, you know,
Yeah.
and something like a bass with an envelope filter is one of those like golden tones that everybody loves. You're like, Bootsy, come on. It's just, you know, it's just funky. People love that. Like, give me that underwater bass sound. And then, you know, so I use that a lot, and I also use like an overdrive or sometimes a fuzz pedal just to like beef up some sections in that trio setting and you know, get it gnarly. Or even to kind of boost myself up for like a lead part if I'm going to do a solo or have somewhere else to take it. You know, the bass is also like with the register that we have, sometimes it could be when you're taking a solo, it can be difficult to get above where the band's out. It's like you always have to be managing like really where you start from, so you have somewhere to go. Yeah. But sometimes having some pedals where you could, you know, you need like I just need to take this up a notch. I need to get above where the drums, because everybody's getting excited, but I'm still trying to.
Especially the bass is so low in there, and not low volume, but like the timbre of it.
Yeah. The frequency range of it. Yeah, as far as like getting across to the audience and stuff. So, excuse me, I just burped on your podcast. Does that smell like tacos? No, just kidding.
Just beer.
Just beer, exactly. Just beer and steak.
So you don't have too much gear, but you have the gear you like.
I don't have too much. I have a few things. Yeah, on the touring stuff, I usually use. I've been using a little compressor pedal, a little distortion, the envelope filter. Last tour, I was using a chorus pedal to do just for a little solo bit in like a little ballad kind of tune. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I've been having fun with that. I've been using some pedals and slowly evolving my pedal board as it goes. You know, which is a hobby in itself. It's a whole that's a rabbit hole right there. Just like anything of like, oh, let me buy this piece of gear. Let me buy that.
Mine. I have my first guitar pedal right there. It's over.
Yeah.
I use it for the acoustic. It's a Ocean's 11 effects pedal. So I like using the fizzles and whatever the fuck they're
the
called.
Fizzles. The fizzle dizzle. Word. Yeah.
It's so cool though. I'm still learning. Sometimes I miss the button. I'm like, fuck, this is not what I wanted. It's in the wrong one, you know. But
well,
gotta be musical.
That's definitely a hazard there. Stepping on the right button.
I only have 4 buttons. I should be able to manage that, but I'm new at this thing.
I have more than once gone to step on some epic sound and accidentally hit the tuner and turned everything off.
Oh,
it's like, well,
God. Well, I meant that, okay?
Slow drop out.
Just saying it.
I'm just saying.
What other instruments do you play?
Well,
you said you have a piano now?
I do actually have a piano. I don't have it at my place currently. But
my piano sounds like shit, but I love it. It's great.
I have a little keyboard that I'm doing working off of for this album. I'm working on rather. But I started on piano. When I was actually the first thing I ever did was sing with my dad. My dad's like always been a kind of a singer-songwriter, not professionally, but. You know, it's always been his passion, I guess you would say. And he's a very good songwriter, actually, and performer. Very good performer.
That's awesome.
So he like does like he writes like Jackson Browne kind of type stuff.
Awesome.
Like that's like his vibe. So when me and my older brother, when we were very young, he used to have us like come when he would perform. He would basically tug on the heartstrings of his audience by having his little boys come up and sing. And we'd sing a few hippie numbers like "This Land Is Your Land" or something like that. And,
cute. Really?
But and
Dylan the singer.
Yeah, exactly. So you know, it's funny. I'm like always like I was saying earlier. I don't consider myself a singer, but I've been doing it since I was a little kid.
That's cute. Is your brother older?
Yeah, I'm the middle of 3. Yeah, so my older brother is 14 months older, and I have one that's a little less than 7 years younger than me. But so that was my first experience, and then after that, I started playing piano at a pretty young age.
That's good.
Like 4th grade or something like that, and I think that was an advantage. It helped me. I wish I didn't find it to be very cool. I didn't enjoy my piano lessons. It was like classical
I didn't either.
kind of
I hated
thing.
my piano
I wish I had enjoyed it. I wish I'd put more time into it and develop those skills, those technique.
Yeah.
More so. But doing the little I did do, I do see how it benefited me greatly. Because then when I picked up bass, which the whole reason I picked up bass was to play in the junior high jazz band in 7th grade with my brother. My older brother was a sax player, right?
Wow.
So their bass player had, went to high school or whatever, who was the guy prior to me. So when I came in out of elementary school, that summer my parents got me bass, and I learned to read walking bass lines and play in a big band jazz setting. So the prior knowledge of being able to read what I could at that point, on piano, seeing how piano is covering your treble and bass clef, and then here I am learning to play bass, and you have your bass clef, and I guess it kind of set me up. It was a good little like training ground for what I was about to do.
It was the foundation.
Exactly. And then when I picked up bass, I instantly fell in love with it. I thought it was the coolest thing. And I would just play it all the time and work on Green Day tunes.
Of course you did. Everybody did.
Yeah, totally.
Everybody worked on some sort of Green Day.
And whatever else I could grab onto. That the piano was very foundational, and then also having that first experience of like, okay, I'm gonna play bass, and I was learning kind of the classic tunes, everybody kind of first learns, like Smoke on the Water and those kind of things that people show you, but I was also at the same time learning to do all that jazz stuff, learning to walk and what that's supposed to feel like, and how those bass lines are constructed, because one of the things you learn when you're doing that is you start, especially in that context, which is very common here in the States at least, is people kind of learning to play through school programs. And so the jazz thing starts off with, you have like written bass lines for these big band tunes, and you're reading the written walking bass line, which is very good to learn to do, but you very quickly get into reading just chord changes. So then you have your chord changes there, and you have to create that walking bass line. You have to compose that as you go, and you have to connect those chords together in a way that's interesting and makes it kind of a shape, in order for it to be walking bass line. So like, not a riff, in other words. Like boom, 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 boom. That's just a riff over and over again. That's not. It's walking bass line in the sense that you're playing quarter notes in that kind of groove, but it's a pattern that you're moving around. And a true walking bass line in my eyes is more of something that weaves in and around the chord changes, and is not necessarily the same every time you come back around to that section of the song, right? It's kind of, you're reacting to the soloist and the other accompaniment, what's going on, and making choices in real time as to what range you're outlining those chords, and how you're going to approach outlining the notes in the chords. So that forces you to learn so much about harmony. It almost sound like a gunshot.
I know.
Shit is real.
We're
over here.
in the fucking
you know
kettle.
This is what's up.
Getting this shit together here, and people are just killing each other out there.
Hey, it's
You gotta see Dylan's face right now.
It's just, I don't know where you brought me here, but that was good.
You're not gonna
keeping
die.
it real.
Not today.
Well, your dog almost killed me when I came in.
He did.
He didn't like me at first. He likes me now, I think.
He doesn't like guys at first.
Who's this guy?
What about the guitar though? Electric guitar, acoustic guitar. Have guitars at home?
So I do. I have a piece together Telecaster that I got from a buddy at the house, that I'm using for writing the record. And some, I don't know. There's not amazing guitar parts, but there's a good chance some of my guitar playing might actually make the record. We'll see.
Oh, that's cool. It should though.
Yeah. Well, I'm also
friends with a lot of good guitar players.
it's like I'm enjoying when I'm laying down, but someone who really does it. I just want to. I want the record to sound as good as I can get it to sound. So we'll see. But
so who's playing bass?
Yeah. Very good. Very good. Guitar. Like I said, my dad has always played guitar, and so he always had guitars around the house, and he showed me how to play some chords when I was young. So I think guitar was always something that was just available to pick up and play. And
I'm sure you're like amazing.
I wouldn't call myself amazing. I really haven't spent a lot of time really honing my skills on guitar.
I have, and you're probably better than me.
Being concerned about it. A lot of the stuff I play on guitar is adapted from bass,
right. Which is probably cool.
Yeah, it's cool.
It is. As a guitar player, I think in the guitar way, your bass player, you probably approach it.
I'm sure I'm approaching it differently. Absolutely, yeah.
That's cool.
So, yeah, so I never took guitar lessons. That was just something that I've just kind of picked up from playing it,
Yeah. I learned guitar by myself too.
Yeah, which is a little bit how I approach singing as well.
Singing.
So I guess that's probably why. Like I've spent so much time studying, and I've studied with people, and I've worked. I put so many more hours into playing the bass that my confidence level of picking up a bass with anybody is as high as it probably could be. So totally. It's the comfortableness is there. But I don't really feel the same way about playing the piano, playing guitar, singing. Even though I do enjoy doing those things, I do those. I don't.
Not at all.
No,
I don't play at all.
For the record, I'm programming all the drums. Like I'm playing it on a keyboard. Just piecing it together. And it's amazing how the tools now on these programs are just it's incredible.
You can almost pass as a real musician sometimes.
Yeah.
If you're not.
I mean, you can make. In the end, this like demo is actually going to sound pretty good without another soul doing anything on it,
right.
Which is really a testament to the programs, I think. But
it's a good exercise too, just to learn how to.
Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Maneuver everything.
Yeah, and it's it teaches you you learn lessons that you could apply to your main deal as well.
Yeah. And you've been friends with Mike. What's his second name? I'm sorry.
Mike Bennett?
Mike Bennett, yes. And you guys been friends forever.
Yeah, long time. Yeah, Mike Bennett and I, a long time. I think the first gig I did with him might have been like some random church gig, I think.
Oh, wow.
And we were not of drinking age yet.
Here in LA?
In the LA County somewhere. It was... I feel like that was maybe in Azusa or something like that. But yeah, LA, cool. The greater Los Angeles area. And we just been friends. We've been friends a long time. We've been playing together since, I don't know, I must have been like 19 or something when I met Mike.
Wow, that was a long time. I'm kidding.
we grew up in a similar, it was a long time ago. Oh man, why'd you say that? It's like 20 years ago now.
So you brought him to Richie?
He brought me to Richie.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
So we did a lot of playing together when we were younger. We had a jazz trio that had multiple steadies weekly. We were gigging and doing that thing. He just, out of the blue, called me up one day and said, have you ever heard of Richie Kotzen? And I said, no, never heard of him.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, I've been playing with him, and we might need a new bass player. And I was like, great, well, send me some things. He sent me some stuff, and I was like, oh, I really like this.
Cool.
And then I didn't hear from him for a while, and then he hit me up and was like, hey, remember the guy Richie? I'm like, yeah, I'm into it. He's like, well, can you come over like next Monday? And I was like, sure. What do you want me to learn? He sent me songs from what was a brand new album at the time. I don't think it was quite released yet. Well, it would have been 24 Hours. And like the lead track from that is like just a shred fest of notes. Yeah, it was definitely a trial by fire. Like I I definitely busted ass to learn those tunes. Richie's dexterity on the guitar, and and for that matter, bass, is really incredible. So on most of his recordings, it's really him playing everything. And he's everything he could play on the guitar, he could essentially play on the bass. He's just so he has a lot of solo lines where the bass and the guitar are playing these really intricate, fast lines together, and that is much more than what you would usually have to do as a bass player. Because usually it's more of like a supportive kind of role. It's like, just make it feel good. Let's make sure the groove, the pocket is deep. Yeah. But he's got a lot of shreddy stuff. So yeah, it was interesting. Like a few days trying to get my best foot forward. Coming into that audition and crushing those, which I did. I kicked a lot of ass, and
awesome.
he instantly liked me, I think, and we hit it off, and
awesome.
And here we are a lot of years later, and a lot of tours and shows later, and it's been a real blessing in my life. To get to play with somebody of his stature in the music industry. He's had a long career. His caliber is extreme talent, and the opportunity to tour that extensively. It's something that I've really come to realize about myself. Is I love playing live. A lot of people really thrive in, say, like a studio environment, or there's a lot of different ways in which you could play music, make your living, or whatever. There's a lot of niches.
The Wrecking Crew, they did it all.
Right, exactly. But I definitely find that playing live is what I love the most.
I do too.
It's the thing that really gets me going, and touring at that capacity is definitely the best of that world. Cool. Where people are there to see you play. They bought tickets to see us. They know who I am.
And you know that you're going on stage with like some really badass people, so you're comfortable. It's like it's a troupe. You guys are going to war together.
We're going to war together.
They got your back. It's gonna be fun.
And I'm definitely afforded the opportunity to really be myself on stage and express myself and play out, and like I was saying earlier, not be locked into some sort of record thing, and be my own person. So it's a special gig in that sense, and just a gig where there's bass solos. Like, he'll give me multiple solos in a night, and that is a rare thing to get the spotlight as much as I do on any gig, Right. So yeah, it's I've been fortunate to have landed that gig and then keep it for so long, but I think that just speaks to the fact that it really. There's a lot of musical things I think that I have in common with Richie as far as taste, and I think I kind of get where he's coming from, or what he's going for.
Right.
So there's a certain amount of synergy with him on stage and musically. That is a special thing that I don't think it's always easy to find. Connecting chemistry wise with somebody. In a musical way, so it's been.
I'm fortunate enough to have that with my band. I think we do. Pablo's fucking amazing, He knows where I'm going before I do.
That's important, yeah.
Yeah, it's just, we don't even look at each other anymore. It's just like...
Yeah, a lot of that comes from playing together for a long time, for sure, yeah.
And,
But also like-mindedness, coming from the same place and having the same sort of taste in things. Makes a big difference.
I think our Brazilian background also mixes with everything.
I'm sure.
So we have this melody thing about things.
Got the pão de queijo going on.
We dig each other. The pão de queijo thing about it that glues us together.
You got that melted cheese bread vibe.
Man, I had pão de queijo yesterday. I ate it all.
That sounds amazing.
But I was mentioning Mike because you guys have that rhythm section.
Oh, that's
stuff
right.
on YouTube.
Yeah.
And it's super cool, super helpful, very insightful.
Really cool.
Yeah.
Cool. I appreciate you saying that. I haven't checked that in a while. Yeah, we did those a few years back, and I think we always meant to do another installment, and it hasn't happened yet. But maybe down the line, we'll that was kind of a learning experience for us. I know there's some things I would do differently as far as putting that together, but it was a fun experience, and I do like the topic. We touch on a lot of cool topics.
You did, yeah.
And I think it's an interesting thing for rhythm section players. It's a lot of stuff that I think we all know if you do, if you've been doing it for a certain amount of time, and if you're young, it's good to hear. But even if you know, it's good. Sometimes it's good to hear things said out loud and be like, "Oh yeah, that's how I feel." That's it. Somebody to articulate some of the stuff. So it was a fun experience with Mike, and Mike is so knowledgeable and he's a very good educator. And pretty.
And it seems like you guys also have a connection where you play so much together. You understand each other.
That guy's,
you have the same taste for things.
Yeah, that guy's like literally my brother from a different mother. Like that saying applies for sure.
Yeah, I remember you guys. It's funny because it made me think about it afterwards. Musically, you're talking about subdivisions, and if something is doing something really busy, the drums are really busy, then on the bass you want to kind of just do less, because less is more, all that stuff. And then for some reason I've thought about it for a while now.
Yeah.
Since I heard you guys talking about it.
Yeah.
Sunk in. I was like, totally.
Nice. Yeah. Some of that stuff is common sense, but like I said, it's sometimes good to hear things said out loud and get you to think about it. And so many times we don't really analyze what we do. We get up there and we do it, and
exactly something you know, but you haven't realized.
Right.
Loud voice.
It's a different thing to articulate that and really know it kind of. And I guess that having to do that made me think about the way I approach and just doing the videos made me really think about about how I approach things. So it was beneficial just in terms of that, doing that. Like, how do I say, what do I do? How do I talk about what I do? How do we describe that?
Now, new music. You listening to anything good lately?
New music. As far as like new stuff, I've been, Thundercat came out with a new record. I like that. There's a new Joshua Redman record with Brad Meldau and Brian Blade and Chris McBride that came out last week that I've been checking out as far as like brand new stuff. Really cool. Also, Joe Clayton live at the Village Vanguard. I was checking out. It's very cool.
Cool.
I've been listening to a lot of Lewis Cole.
All right.
He's a local guy. He's got some really cool stuff. And then I've been, I'm always like all about like oldies and stuff. I've been on a Curtis Mayfield kick lately. And what else? What else I've been listening to a lot? Marvin Gaye's "Here My Dear." I listened to that record a lot this quarantine. Francis and the Lights. That's kind of a newer artist that I'm super into, and I've been really just vibing on his kind of the mood of his records.
Do you usually pick or get drawn? It's a stupid question, but I'm gonna ask. Drawn to music by its bass characteristics, or not really?
I think
most of the time.
That I wouldn't say that's true, but I would say that something with cool bass parts or where the bass is very audible will instantly grab my attention.
So you're gonna love Lies. Phoenix Rising is so much bass in our song.
Excellent. Well then, I will like it. So that's something that definitely grabs my attention, but it's not a prerequisite. Let's see if I can say that word. For me to enjoy something.
Right.
You know what I mean? So like I just mentioned Francis and the Lights. There's not like amazing bass stuff per se on those records, and there's a lot of keyboard bass in fact, but but the songs themselves are really cool. And a lot of times it'll be like chord changes or grooves, or melodies that grab me first.
Have you ever heard Marcus King?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, that kid is badass.
Yeah.
I was talking to Richie about Marcus the other day, and he dug it too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been listening to a lot of bluegrass stuff.
Bluegrass?
Because I love acoustic guitars, so all these guys are flat picking this.
Hell yeah.
Just so fast, it's so cool.
Bluegrass stuff is super neat. Yeah.
Morning Jackets and Leftover Salmon.
Oh, okay.
And all of that old ass shit. But to me, it's new, and it's just stretching everything in here, musically. So I'm digging.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of great music out there, and certainly all across the genres. I love the like the country chicken picking stuff. I did a few like live video things with a guitarist named John Five a while back, who's of note. I guess he played with like Rob Zombie and Marilyn Manson for years, and he's kind of known for his like metal stuff, but he's super into to the country chicken picking. We did a cover of Jerry's Breakdown. Jerry, I can't remember his last name. He's a very famous country chicken picking guitar player.
Jerry Garcia, I'm kidding.
Not Jerry Garcia.
I'm kidding.
But that's some shredding. That can be some real shredding music. I still listen to. There's this album by Alison Krauss and Union Station, their live record that I listen to still all the time. Such beautiful music.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just fucking awesome. And Billy Strings, it's the guy that I've been listening to on bluegrass. And his bass player plays a stand-up bass, and it's loud and it's fucking awesome.
You should check out Steel Drivers. You ever listen to them?
Maybe.
It's the guy who did a big hit with Tennessee Whiskey recently, semi-recently, I guess.
Whatever that guy's name is, Blake Shelton.
No.
I don't fucking know.
No, way cooler than that.
Probably.
I
can't talk shit about his artists here.
And we had this group before he made his success as a solo guy.
Okay.
Called Steel Drivers. That's pretty cool. Bluegrass.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Since you're feeling the bluegrass these days.
I have been feeling the bluegrass. Bluegrass is awesome. I put that shit loud in the morning, especially when I'm going to... I love that there's no drums, so it's like so much space.
Yeah.
For the bass player and the acoustic guy.
Yeah.
And then there's the mandolin. I never played the mandolin before until like 2 days ago. My friend Barkley is an artist too. I was at his house. I was like, man, you still have that mandolin? He was like, yeah. I brought it over and all dusty. And I started playing. I don't know what I was playing, but it sounded cool. It could have been the mushrooms. But I think it was the mandolin. But it was amazing. It was really...
Mandolin's a cool instrument and can be super shredding. Like, you ever listen to the Aquarium Rescue Unit?
No.
Oh, man. You should check out this Aquarium Rescue Unit live record that's... Oh, my gosh. I can believe the guy's name is Matt Mundy. And he's shredding the mandolin like bebop lines shredding. Like, it's pretty epic.
Maya's like, okay.
Is that your dog again?
Awesome. Yeah, I think I'm going to get a mandolin and then a fiddle. No, I'm kidding. I'm not going to get a fiddle.
Yeah.
I don't think I would know where to start with the fiddle. Cool, man.
Yeah, man.
I don't know. We've been talking for so long now.
Have we? Okay.
I don't want to keep you here all night.
Well, anybody who's listened this far, kudos for staying awake.
I think people listen in parts. I don't know.
Yeah.
I do.
Well, thank you for having me.
Thanks
very
for coming
pleasant.
and doing I'll buy you another beer before you go.
For sure. You owe me another beer.
Thank you guys for listening and you for coming. Dylan Wilson. And you guys can find him on DylanWilsonMusic.com.
That is the website. I will be very soon updating that for the release of the Dylan Wilson album to come sometime before the end of the year, hopefully, and be checking that out. All my Brazilian friends, please check it out and be nice.
Yeah, be nice.
Or don't. I don't care. Whatever. You like it or you don't like it. I don't know.
I'm sure it's going to be great. Coming from you, it's going to be great. And thank you for listening to The Way of the Artist. And I will catch you guys on the next one. Thank you. Pam.